Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eleanor Niegevater and this is going to be my May reading wrap-up. Since I started a couple of months ago doing reading vlogs, I don't have a reading vlog for May. It was a very challenging month for me personally. I had lots of other stuff going on, so I just never filmed a reading vlog for May. And yeah, so it's just going to be this wrap-up. May was a fantastic reading month for me. I got so much read, mostly helped out by the fact that I buddy read 4 books with Connor at Connor Stompanato. I'll leave his channel linked below. I was so excited that we did that buddy read together and it was so much fun. So I'm just going to get straight into all the books I read. As usual, I'll leave all the individual book reviews down in the description because for most of these books I have separate reviews for them. So I won't go into too much detail. The first book I read in May was The Stone of Destiny, a Four Treasures novel by Caroline Logan. I love this book. Caroline Logan is a Scottish author and this book is detailing like Scottish fantasy and folklore. It's a young adult book. It has selkies and fae and magic and fantastically written characters. And I also read her second book, The Cauldron of Life, quite quickly thereafter, and I loved them so much. The covers are beautiful, look how well they match, and they're amazing together, and I had so much fun reading these 2 books, if I can hold them properly. The main character is Alyssa, who is a changeling, and she gets swept up in this adventure with 2 Selkies, Harris and Iona, brother and sister. She gets swept up in this adventure with them, and it just goes from there. They travel all across the land in this world, they meet more amazing characters, and chaos ensues, basically. More fear are introduced, more magic. There's so much Scottish history in here, and the language feels very Scottish to me. And I just love the feel and the atmosphere of this book, books I should say. And I think Caroline Logan did a fantastic job portraying so many Scottish myths, fantasy and folklore. I think both of them mean the same thing anyway. I'm gushing, and I'm so excited to get to book 3 when it's released later this year. So I'd highly recommend these books, and I started May off with a bang. The next 4 books I read were buddy read with Connor, and it is the Earthsea Cycle by Ursula Le Guin. So I read The Tombs of Atuan, The Farthest Shore, Thani, and The Other Wind. I'd already previously read in March A Wizard of Earthsea. No, I read that in April. Connor and I had both previously read A Wizard of Earthsea individually, and Connor reached out and asked if I was interested in buddy reading the rest of the series with him, and I jumped at the chance because classic books are a bit harder to read, and I really enjoyed reading this series with him and being able to discuss our thoughts and opinions as we went on. I do have a more detailed series review, I'll leave a link below. So not much more to say in that I did enjoy this. Classic books aren't for everyone, so I wouldn't say this is like my favourite series ever, but when you look at it through the lens of the first book being written in the 60s by a woman who was like groundbreaking in like writing science fiction and fantasy, I really think it's worth a read. She breaks so many of the fantasy stereotypes, and I just loved her world building. Each book focuses on the kind of coming of age of a young person, and she's got some fantastic characters, and I really enjoyed it. And dragons. Can't forget the fantastic dragons. The next book I read was Lords and Ladies, a Discworld novel by Terry Pratchett. This is book 14 in the Discworld series, I believe, and the story directly follows on from Witches Abroad. So again, you're following the witches. This is part of my read 12 Terry Pratchett books in 2021. I'm reading one a month, and May was Lords and Ladies. I struggled with this book in the start because it was very much following McGrath, preparing for her wedding, and kind of stepping away from magic a bit. So the first kind of part of this book was a bit of a drag for me. I struggled with it and I wasn't hugely engaged. But when it kind of kicked in the story and it was more about the elves and how the elves were bad and not good, and how there was a great misconception about people thinking elves are lovely and bright, happy creatures, not evil, that made the story so much more exciting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it thereafter. When it was more just in the castle, preparing for a wedding, I was a bit bored, but I did really enjoy the story once the kind of action kicked in. There's lots of action in here. There's evil elves, there's kidnapping, there's lots of magic, and the kooky, crazy witches save the day again. And the witches are just so interesting. There's so much fun and comedy in these books, and I just have a great time reading Terry Pratchett, and I just think it's a very light-hearted book, and I enjoyed having this light read in amongst reading some classic fantasy, and more so kind of modern fantasy in the Stone of Destiny series. It's not actually modern fantasy, but because it's modern writing and it's a recently published book, it feels modern. Do you know what I mean? So it's just more of a mix-up. Just thinking about it, I actually read a lot of fantasy this month, which is unusual for me lately, as I've been getting so much into sci-fi. But yeah, I had a great time, and I will always recommend Terry Pratchett books. And the last book I read in May is Betrayal by PC and Kristen Cast. This is the second book in the House of Night series, and I've read this as part of the Redbird read-along that's been hosted here by some people on BookTube and like through Twitter and stuff like that. Last month we read Marked, and they had a live show, and I enjoyed watching that, although I missed it because of time zones. I'm going to endeavour to watch this one live. Yes, the series is problematic. They were written in the mid-2000s, but I love this world so much, and I really want to finish it. I love being back with these characters. They are so flawed, but they just, when you read them, you just feel like you're back in secondary school again. It's so teenagery, and I feel like nowadays when you read books that are centred around 15, 16-year-olds, they don't feel like teenagers, they feel like adults. And that's what I love and hate about this series, is that they are so well written that they're annoying because they feel like they're acting, they feel like they're acting like adults, but they're not. And as an adult yourself, you're reading it and going, oh, you're such a child. It's so funny. Haven't even said, this is a vampire series. Back when like Twilight was a big craze, the House of Night series was like one of my favourites, if not my favourite series. I loved it more than Twilight. I just thought the vampires were much more interesting. You're following main character Zoe Redbird, as she gets marked into a vampire, and she goes to vampire finishing school, basically. And yeah, I enjoy reading this series so much. I fly through the books because I've read them so much when I was younger. And as usual, this is my bullet journal for the month of May. As I said, I read quite a lot, and yeah, it was pretty consistent for me, and I had a great time with what I was reading. Let me know what you read in May, and if you read any books I've talked about here, I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoy my videos. I don't really see that very often. I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. I've recently hit 375 subscribers, which is amazing, and I wasn't expecting to kind of keep growing as quickly as I have recently. So thank you for kind of sticking around and enjoying my content. I know I have been a little bit sporadic with videos this last couple of weeks, just had a lot going on, but I'll endeavour to be a bit more consistent with my videos. But thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.